This might be the biggest request that I get. This time zone stuff is a mind melter. I'm going to show you some of the best practices to use. Okay, next level up. All of our applications works with the same idea too. Download time zones blueprint. So it's got all these modules in here. The end result is that the caller gets back available times in their time zone. Hello, ladies and gents. Today I am going to go over time zones, and I've got a little Figma board here set up. I'm not going to be connecting it up with Vappy or anything else. It's just going to be setting it up in make.com essentially. This might be the biggest request that I get to get help with when building out voice agents for my clients. I'm going to show you some of the best practices to use, and some definitions and some like brainstorming stuff right now. So basically this will be the theory part, and after this section we'll jump into make.com. It's up to you. You can stay around and listen, or jump to the application part of make.com. All right. So let's have a look at the terms first. So I'll be using these throughout this video. So I'll be throwing around the term UTC. It stands for Coordinated Universal Time. A bit confusing because it's like the other way around. So it should be CUT, but I guess I changed it. So one of the main things to do with converting time zones, especially during a call on Vappy, is the main concept is this. We get the caller's time zone. The user sends the requested time to make.com or our calendar. Our calendar receives this and then gives back the time in UTC. This is important. So UTC is basically going back to 0. So it's doesn't matter what time zone you're in, it will go back to 0. So Z for Zulu. This is what the next thing's going to happen. And this is the best practice to do because all of our applications, Google Calendar, for example, works with the same idea too. And the third step, convert into the caller's time zone, and then the end result is that the caller gets back available times to choose from, but in their time zone. So this is the main concept. So 3 steps, but it's actually not just 3 steps. We are still in the uninformed optimism phase. So many calendars use UTC, for example, Google Calendar. It is best practice, especially for scheduling or logging purposes. So Zulu or Z is another way to refer to UTC, and it could be also referred to as 0 offset. The next thing to do as an example is when you see a time written as, for example, 1400 Z, it means 2 o'clock in UTC time, so 2 p.m. I'll also be throwing around this term, IANA time zone. It stands for Internet Assigned Numbers Authority. Some examples of an IANA time zone: America, New York, Europe, London, or Asia, Tokyo. For example, those are IANA time zones. And time offsets is, for example, something like this. So GMT +1, that's a simple time offset. And IANA names are a bit more precise way of doing this. So UTC offset, this refers to the difference between a time zone and UTC. So I used to live in Australia, for example, and like last month, the UTC offset from where I live was +10. Yeah, this time zone stuff is a mind melter. It is not something nice to work with for sure. But with time, I did get better at it. So hopefully in this video you'll get a little bit more idea of how to use this for your voice agents. So next thing, you have positive offsets, which are represented by plus. And for example, I am right now in Central European time, and it is +2. negative offsets. So for example, negative 4 hours back from UTC means you'd be like in America, New York somewhere. So here are some words. I could also go into timestamps, but I think that's enough. And here's like some theory. So what are some options on how to set up your agents? You have 2 types of agents in this scenario. You have inbound or outbound. And I might go into the outbound because that's probably the one where you'll have to think about the time zone a little bit more. So you're reaching out to people. So for example, first options, you can get your leads from Facebook, your landing page, or some type of questionnaire, right? And then what happens is that information from that person is then sent to a CRM of some kind. Let's just say for the simplicity's sake, Airtable. Once this information is sent through, you use Airtable to convert anything you need. So for example, on your form, you had a postcode, or you had a location, or the state, or the country, and you could use a formula in Airtable, for example, to convert this into an IANA time zone that then we can then use in make.com to convert into their times appropriately. So what you can do is in the assistant overrides, you can override the variables with the person's time zone or IANA time zone that we got through the form. So this would be on a temporary assistant, and temporary, you guys might have heard the word, it's like more fancy. Transient, that's it. It's a transient assistant. So temporary, transient, the same thing. Basically, temporary just means it's not actually on your Vapi account, it's set up in make.com somewhere. So the other option is for your outbound, you have some kind of a campaign, and it goes through a list of leads that you have set up somewhere, and it grabs each lead, and maybe they'll live in a different time zone, and then that also ends up in the same spot. So for each lead that you call, we'll have a different time zone assigned to that assistant. Okay, so that's like one setup. Let's just color this something different. Okay, so then for inbound agents, we have a few options. You can, during the call, to get the user's time zone, you can actually just directly ask for the person during the call, and then you set up a tool within Vapi that will capture this user's whatever they said, and you can get the tool to actually convert it into an appropriate IANA time zone. So in the tool call, we just say something like, well, pretty much literally this: convert the user's request into an IANA time zone, or something like that, or time zone, or convert the user's location. Or the other option is you can capture the user's response exactly as it was, and then send it over to make.com, where you have like a chat completion, and then you convert it into an IANA time zone there, or you have some kind of different setup that actually validates what they said, so that we know it actually gets the correct one. So yeah, that's like the basic idea for the inbound. The second idea is you can look at an inbound phone number before getting a temporary assistant set up. So you're calling up using the server URL in Vapi, going into make.com. This then looks at the inbound phone number. So for example, we're calling in from Poland. That time zone is actually the same for whole of Poland. So for example, I'm always in CET or CEST. This is a bit harder for Canada and US because they have like 3 or 4 different time zones. So probably that won't work as well just by looking at the inbound phone number. You'd have to suss that out and decide what's a better way of doing this. But yeah, here are some that's just some basic thoughts and things I've learned by looking at time zones. So if you knew nothing about any of this, hopefully you now know. Maybe you learned what Zulu means, for example. I would love it if in the comments you would let me know what's one thing you learned from this. That'd be great. Okay, so the next thing, what I would like you to do is to go into my Gumroad and then download the time zones blueprint from make.com, and this is exactly this one. So it's got all these modules in here, and we are going to step it out So you can see the whole progression of this. And the idea that we're going to use is this one here. So we're going to get the Collis time zone. We are going to get our available times from our calendar in UTC and then convert it back to the Collis time zone. So 3 steps. All right, so just some basics. What you would do once you get the file, you will click on more. You will click on import, choose file, and then you will just import the file that you just downloaded from Gumroad. And then to actually use this thing, what you would have to do is set up a few things. When we get up to the 2 bottom ones, I'll show you how to get there. Essentially, one of the main things you have to know to walk around this is this thing here. See this like clock? You can actually move it. So I can move it from module to module. So all I'm doing is I'm like hovering over it, holding down left click, and then like dragging it off the module, and then you can let go, and then it like hooks onto my next one. And that's how I'm going to show you how to use like the various steps you have to get to. Okay, so the most basic step, right, is we have a set multiple variables module. And to do that, you would right click, add module, and then you will type in set multiple variables, click add item, you'd go current time, and then in make.com, you have this thing called now. So how I did that is I did the 2 curly brackets, and then to enclose you also do 2 curly brackets. Another way to approach this is to click on the little calendar here and then click on now. Another way to do it is also do left click and then like drag into. So that's how I set this up. And this is, when we run this, this is completely based off of your time zone within this scenario. Okay, so what do I mean by that? I'm gonna save this, and then if you click on your profile, you should be able to see time zone options right here. So I've got all my scenarios, things set to Europe/Warsaw. So whatever you have this set to, this is what's going to come up for you on your scenario. So if you're working on like a client's make.com scenario and you have it set to like something different and you're working with your calendar that's in a different time zone, I guess. Anyway, yeah, so jump into here, profile, time zones, and just double check what time zone you're in here. And let's go back to our scenario. I called it time zone or something. Yeah, there we go. Cool. So when we left click and run this, and the run button is behind my head, by the way. So yeah, that's currently the time for me. It's 3:46 p.m. And essentially that's the first step. Second step, or level up from that, is we use a function called format date. So I'm going to set it up with you. So we had this before, right? And now if you type in format date and then open the bracket, you'll see a bunch of options pop up. You can type in things like which means the month number, DD, the day number, and this will be the year, like the number of the year. And then use a semicolon or whatever this is called. And then type in the format that you want. So I'm going to go Y, this, T, and T as in, this is called 860 ISO format, or just ISO format. And this is what most of the calendars expect back. And A is actually like AM or PM. I'm going to close that. And then when we run this, it should format our time now. Instead of having it like nice how it was before, it now has it as the 10th of the 14th at 3:48 p.m. And if you notice, if we got rid of the A, we now just have the 3:48. I like the PM because then on some cases it's useful. So I'm just gonna keep that there. Okay, next level up. I'm jumping to here. The next level up is exactly the same thing we had above, except I've added in one extra thing. I've added in one extra semicolon. So we had this before. Now we're going to go America/New York. Click OK. So if we click run once, instead of it being now 3:55 p.m., which is my time in Europe, it is now 10 a.m. in America, New York. Okay, so that's this step. So just practice it, have a crack at it, and then our next level up is to go into pretending that we are getting some time back from VAPI. So in this one, I've actually used a basic trigger, which is different. You can't actually, so the issue with this one is that you can't actually put variables into it from make.com anymore. So that's why I don't set multiple variables. So that's how I would have it come back from our tool call in VAPI. And I'm just pretending someone requested for tomorrow, which is the 15th of October. And I already know the time zone from one way or another. I know the time zone. So either they filled out a form or I asked them in the call, or this has already been converted, right? So America, New York. And then when I click on run once, what happens is this will give me back the results from VAPI, or the results from VAPI, right? And then what we do is we are prepping the start time to be used into our calendar, and the calendar we are going to use is cal.com. So we are using we are formatting it, and then you can put this in as an extra little extra line. And let's say your business starts at 7 a.m. in the morning, you can have this running from 7, or you can have it running from 8 a.m. Then press OK. Let's save that. Okay, so this is the cal.com setup. This is version 1 of cal.com. This is my API key. What you'll do is, to actually follow along with this, you do need a cal.com account. So what you would do is you would come into your cal.com account after you've created it, go into here, go API keys, and then you'll get your API key from here. And you then come back into make.com and you just copy your API key in this box right here. You don't have to click on anything else except for changing this. So the event type ID, you'd have to get it from your cal.com as well, which would be in your event types. So when you click on one of your calendar settings, your number is found after the / and before the question mark. So my number is 1106532. And then what we'll do is we'll come back into our make.com and then paste it into here. And that's the only thing you actually need to do to make this work for you right here. Okay. Notice that I have this time zone thing set to UTC. And this follows the idea of our Figma board, where we get the Colas time zone, the calendar gives us back the time in UTC, and then the next idea is to convert all those available times into the Colas time zone. So there's a few steps now that we're going to do. So we are getting just moving that thing down. So we got the time zone. We are converting this into some kind of start time, and the start time I'm putting it here, and I might actually change this to 8 a.m. And then I'm adding 11 hours to the start time because I like to work pretty much all day, right? So people can book into my calendar all the time if they want to. And there's some extra funky stuff which I'm not sure if I really want to get into. Essentially, I'll just run this and show you what happens, right? Before I run this, again, I'm going to change this to the 15th so you guys can see my calendar here. And then on the 15th, for example, this is the data comes back. So on the 15th, we have all these slots available in UTC for someone to book into my calendar. So these are 14 slots. In UTC. Okay, so what we need to do next is we need to go through all those slots, do stuff with them, and then convert them back into the user's time zone. What I'm essentially doing here with this part here, it might seem a bit complex, but essentially this 3, if you change this to like 5, this will change the amount of results that comes back from your calendar. So the slice option cuts off stuff in your array where you only, for example, in this case, return 3 times available from your calendar. For example, it chose 8, 12, and then 2:30 in Zulu time. And then it converts it into 4 a.m., 8 a.m., and then 10:30 a.m. for the user. Now this brings an issue, right? Because we don't actually want the caller to have to wake up at like 4 a.m. in their time zone. That's not going to happen in most cases. So what we have to do is we have to manipulate this text aggregator thing a little bit, and the next step up is to use this group by section, which is what this part is going to do for us. But we probably don't even need this, honestly. I'm going to delete that. There we go. That should even be much easier to run. And yeah, these are all random, and they'll just come back. So if you run that again, at times it will also come back like so. But yeah, we get like 5 a.m. and then 7 a.m. Most people won't wake up at that time in that time zone. So there's another solution where what we're going to do, and I'll just show you how it looks like. So we run this, and then actually I'll change it to also the 15. Already set to it, good. And what we get back is, and we can change this, but notice it didn't give me like weird times anymore. So it gave us like 7 a.m., which is much better than it was before, right? So how do we do that? Essentially, we do the same thing. We get our available times back from our calendar. So all of these. Then we get all the times. So what I did is I actually got rid of the slice and the shuffle part, and I just sorted it in ascending time in regards to the key value of time. And then what I did is I split this up into 2 groups. This is what this group by thing is. So if the format date is less than 7 a.m., so we can change this, let's say 8, it will categorize it into the early group, and anything outside of that will be categorized as normal. So I'm just going to run that again. I'll show you how that looks like. So at the moment, we only have times after 8 a.m. converted into their time zone from our time zone, or from actually UTC. So we have 2 groups. We have all the times that they would have to wake up really early for, or all the times that we would have to wake up like pretty at a normal time for, let's say. So what we do for that is we include a filter in here, and everything that is not equal to the a word early will be passed through again, and then we'll just get the available slots back to VAPI. Essentially how that would look like is it would go webhook response, and then you have like your tool ID and stuff here. You can watch my tool ID video to set this up if you want to, but I literally just want to show you like more the theory behind all this and how to set it up, because doing the whole thing from start to finish is a pretty big job. So I think this would be like a part 1 video, and if you think you got a lot out of it or you got something out of it and you would like to see more of videos like this, then let me know in the comment section below. I would appreciate any feedback. We're also thinking of doing a course of some kind on all this, so if you are interested in that, let me know as well. And yeah, just in case, I want to recap. We are getting the user's time. So get the user's time and time zone. So that's this step here. Then the next step is the calendar gives us back the time in UTC. And remember, this is the best practice to use. So we've set our time zone to UTC for cal.com, and then caller gets back the available times in their time zone, which is this section here. And that's probably the most important part. Is what we do is we format our time into the variable that they've picked, right? So it's kind of like what we did. Let me scroll back up. What we did up here. So this is the variable that we are converting to, and this is the time that they've chosen, right? So this is sort of like what we did in this variable right there. And yeah, cool. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the flip side.